Hello, my name is Dr. Julia Guseva. I'm a writer and a teacher, and today we'll do a really brief video talking about dialogue format. I noticed that a lot of my students have trouble with the format, and even though creative writing is supposed to let your imagination go free, I think some things are still good to know how to do. That's what readers expect, and the dialogue format is one of those things that makes it easier for readers to get into your story and to understand it. And of course, some of you will say, I know my students, they will say, well, I want to break the rules. Yes, you can break the rules. So, but first you need to learn those rules, right? To know what you're breaking and why you're breaking it. So let's take a look at an example, and I hope it will be helpful to you to learn how to use dialogue format in your stories. All right, so let's take a look at this example. I'm using an example from a novel I'm currently working on. That way there are no copyright issues. So let's take a look at the way the scene starts. Generally, it's a good idea to introduce your characters, right? As you start writing any scene, including a dialogue scene. So I have two characters. Here's one, Lidusa. The other one is Nadezhda. And in the first paragraph, I'm briefly explaining where they are. But our goal here is dialogue. So let's take a look. We have two people, right? Two women talking to each other. And you can see how I start a new paragraph every time I change speakers. So take a look. Lidusia is speaking here. So she gets her own paragraph. Then we switch to Nadezhda. She gets her own paragraph, right? You can see that. Then there's a switch to Lidusia again. Then it's also in its own paragraph. Then we have somebody else. We have the daughter of one of the characters who comes in, and then she's in her own paragraph, right? And so on. So that's the first rule of dialogue format. Start a new paragraph every time you change speakers. Now let's take a look at punctuation. So the words that are spoken are put in quotation marks, like this one, "You're so beautiful," right? That's what she says. And then another line here, "In this dress, you look like Cinderella going to a ball." So that's also her words, the same person's words. So they go in that same paragraph. And because they're interrupted with the phrase Lidusia said, each of these phrases goes in its own quotation marks. Now, what I commonly see as a problem with my students is they don't know when to use, like here, a comma, and when to use a period. So what's the difference, right? It seems like, well, this is a line in quotation marks, this is a line in quotation marks, so why is there a comma here and a period here? So let's take a look. Lidusia said, said is a way of saying words, right? So that's why you have a comma here, not a period. You can think of it, if you have a way of saying words, this is your complete sentence. That includes the words in quotation marks and then the tag Lidusia said, right? And of course, Lidusia is a personal name. It's her name. So that's why it starts with a capital letter always. If we had she said here, then she would not be capitalized, right? So let's take a look at this example. Nadezhda blushed, and there's a period because blushing is an action. It's not a way of saying words, right? Then we have her words, and there's a period here because what follows, she twirled playfully. This is an action, so it's a separate sentence. It's not she said, he said. That's why we have a period here, right? And that continues. So let's take a look at another example. So again, there's an action, she checked her watch. And then we don't put a comma here, we put a period because the next sentence is a separate sentence, right? Again, it's in quotation marks. All right, so once again, just to summarize, when you start a dialogue scene, it's good to start it with an introduction of basic time and place and characters. And when you write your dialogue, you put spoken words in quotation marks. You put a comma if what follows is a way of saying words, like she said, he whispered, she exclaimed, things like that. And if you have actions, then actions are followed by, if you have a statement that follows with an action, like in this case, here are her words, and then an action follows, she twirled, then you put a period, not a comma, because she twirled is not a way of saying words. I hope this was helpful.